are back for our regularly scheduled Tuesday office hours. Today we have a slight change in folks here to regale you with the amazing updates that we have to share for Draftbit today. Today we have Peter Pekarczyk, who's co-founder CTO, in place of Brian, who could not make it today. And as is normally the case, Rahul and I are here to try to run through any questions people have. And we also have a couple of things prepared to share as we've shipped a few exciting new features into the product that we want to update people on, and hopefully, use these things to. I think some of these things that we're going to share are reflective of some very commonly requested things that we've heard in past office hours, and in terms of people's comments in the community. So hopeful that these things will be very well received by all of you. So we don't actually have any questions in the queue today, which is odd, but gives us an opportunity to, I think, just kind of go into some of the more recent changes that we've made. So we're going to dive right into that. So as of yesterday, we've released a few exciting, new features. The first of which, there are actually a couple different things related to helping you debug issues that you're experiencing in your app, especially issues that could be related to custom code or custom functions that you've imported into your app. And so let's start there. The first one is the ability to see a console log of things that are happening in the console when you are running things in your application. Things that you would normally in the past have to kind of, open the browser-based console log and understand how that works and try to parse all the things that are in that. We've tried to expose more of that directly into the products to help you debug. And so I know Rahul's, created a very brief sort of demo of this, just showcasing what it looks like in your Draftbit app, and just help you orient to what that experience looks like. So I'm going to let Rahul share his screen and showcase some of that.
Certainly. Thank you, Tim, and hi, everyone else. So I'm really excited to showcase this feature to everyone. I think this would be a good value add for everyone who is trying to develop an app here in Draftbit. So let me quickly share my screen and show you what I'm talking about. So again, as Tim said, this is a really brief demo of what we are doing today. And I think I've already given out the crux of it. So I'll just quickly hide that. So basically, this is my app. And I wanted to demonstrate what a console log means and what it does and how it can help you in your app. So in this demo, what I'm going to show you is a very small function. So I have a button here that basically what it does is it runs a custom function. I call that function console log. I'll show you what that function does. Again, it's a really simple function and really handy for anyone who's trying to either put a navigate a stack of actions that you usually do when you're fetching an API call, or trying to implement authentication in your app. So for now in this demo, what I'm simply doing is I'm just console logging this statement. So that's basically as simple as that. So now when I press this button, there's a console log that will appear in here. So this is the new feature basically we wanted to demonstrate. Now you have this tab inside your builder, which is really handy. So you don't have to go into a browser console. Now you can see all your console logs here. As you can see, let me see if I can increase the size of my screen so you guys can read it. So it basically says now you can see your console logs in the builder. It's a great way to debug your application. And so yeah, that was the feature that I'm actually most excited to talk about, because now, for instance, if I have a bunch of actions here, if I make an API call, I get a result name. What I can quickly do with that is I can right now I don't have a service set up. Otherwise, I would have shown you what we can do. But for instance, we can save this a result name here, and then um, sorry, I won't be able to demonstrate it because I don't have a service here. But what I basically mean by this is whatever result is here, you can add another function. In my case, it's a console log, and I can show whatever is happening in this console here. Um, again, not too much to show right now, but this is something I'm sure everyone would be really happy to see. One more feature here is that you can remove those console logs, which is handy when you're trying to debug something. Um, Another feature that I would like to add here is navigate between different stacks of navigators. So I can show that as well.
Yeah,
So
just
I'll
to
first show,
pause on this, like, so now Rahul's kind of jumping into another one of the new features that we released yesterday, just to give it the proper emphasis, which is he's going to show basically how to navigate, to screens across navigators, which is a feature that that Peter worked on for us. And so, Rahul, why don't you start with your demo, and then we can have Peter add any kind of commentary that you might have to this.
definitely. And I'm really happy to see Peter here with us. I think he's the guy who knows everything about navigation and Draftbit overall. So glad that Peter could join us today. So I'll continue with my demo. What I wanted to show first is how my navigation stack looks like. So basically, I have a root navigator. All Draftbit have apps have a root navigator. I've added two more navigators here. They're both stack navigators, and they both contain these screens in them. And what I'm primarily trying to showcase here is what new feature that we have added in this app. So if I go here and can start with my welcome screen. So this is a continue button, and I can show you what we do here itself. So now I have a navigate action here, and we give you an option of choosing which navigator you want to navigate to, or a screen which is not inside any navigator. So my screen 2 is not inside any navigator. So basically, which what this means is you can navigate to any screen inside your app with the help of this new feature. So for instance, I'm navigating to my first navigator, and then I can select any of the screens which are nested inside that navigator. So I have screen 2 and tab 1, which is already nested here. So for this case, I'll just select tab 1, and when I hit continue, it should take me to tab 1. And as I said, so these screens are nested under different navigators, so which is pretty cool that we can do that now. And on this screen, I have another button here, which I can show you what it does. Is I have set up another navigation action here, and what that navigation action is doing is taking you to the other navigator, the first navigator, and then I can select the screen here. So I'm going to go to tab 1, and that's basically it. So you can now potentially navigate to any screen inside your navigators, which is, I think, a great feature. So if I hit tab 1, this goes to uh, tab 2, and when I have tab 1, it will take me to
Hey,
tab.
Rahul, I think your screen share is disappeared. At
Oh,
least for me, I don't see it anymore.
I still see it.
Oh, okay.
Just a heads up. I still see it. Yeah.
Okay, so it could
oh,
just be a connectivity issue on my end. It just as a heads up, it seems like Crowdcast is having some sort of partial system outage. If folks joining haven't seen that notification, so I suspect that's probably why I can't see it anymore. No worries.
oh, okay. Yep. So basically, I'm almost done here. So that's what I wanted to showcase, these two wonderful new features that we have added to Draftbit. And if Peter wants to add something more here, you're most welcome, Peter.
Peter, what are some common use cases that you think this will help support? For our users, when you were working on this feature, like what were you thinking about in terms of like, hey, now I can do this in Draftbit where I couldn't do that
Yeah.
before?
Good question. The main feature. So let's talk about what navigation was like before, which was just being able to select a screen or a navigator, one or the other. When you selected a navigator, you would have no choice but to have it default to the first route. But now you've got the ability to not only select the navigator, but the screen on that. Sometimes you don't want to go to that initial route. Let's say you've got a tab navigator with 4 screens. If you're navigating to it, it'll always take you to the first one in the old way, whereas the new one, you could choose any one of those tabs to navigate to. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes, it does.
Cool. That was the main feature. There are things that we are looking into for the future where you'll be able to navigate to multiple nested navigators, but that isn't available just yet, just for anybody wondering.
Yeah. So this, I mean, hopefully people can try this out. Hopefully people can see, you know, the use cases that Peter mentioned. You know, try and unblock yourself if you found yourself restricted by only being able to navigate within, you know, one specific navigator, to give it a shot. And please give us feedback and thoughts. As Peter mentioned, we're going to continue to iterate on this. Like, we totally understand that a common request is going to be able to navigate to nest navigators and navigate to a navigator, or to navigate many layers deep, if that's the complexity of how your app is structured. So that's definitely, you know, something that is on our radar. We lost Peter.
Oh, I'm still here. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, just disappeared. I was like, no, I'm looking at all of you.
I'm still here.
Carry on. Forgive me.
It happens. It happens sometimes. Crowdcast has its idiosyncrasies about how it functions sometimes. The other thing, you know, related to debugging that we released, and I may be butchering the implementation of this in my description, so please, Peter will correct me. But another thing that would cause users trouble pretty frequently is if you added like a custom component to your app, and you obviously, like, you know, wrote some of your own custom code inside of that. You may have found in the past that issues that you experienced or errors that you made, or things that were off in the custom component you created, were causing red screens in your app, and it was kind of hard to debug because he wasn't really sure if this was a Draftbit issue, if this was also related to some other thing you did, you know, that may have caused a red screen that was unrelated to the custom component. So we did, you know, create the ability to kind of isolate the errors that you'd be experiencing inside that custom component, so that it doesn't red screen your entire app, but that you actually just see an error message related to, hey, there's something up, you know, with this custom code component. You should probably try to debug that in order to move forward, you know, with your app. So that's another thing that was released as part of our deployment yesterday. Is that a fair description of what that does, Peter and Rahul?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. It will definitely make debugging parts of your app much easier for both you as the individual user and Draftbit when it comes to helping you run through issues.
Yeah, I'm sure Rahul and the other success engineers on our team also appreciate that for internal use when trying to help you know, you guys out as with your Draftbit apps. It, like, anything that helps you debug as a user of our product also helps us internally when we support you as well. So those are the things that we released, you know, over the last 24 hours or so. There's, you know, quite a bit of big changes. I think since we still don't have new questions and a relatively light audience today, I may also just, like, give a little sneak preview of some things that are, you know, coming up in terms of by the end of the year, some of the things that we're kind of focused on within the product. We only have like a week and a half left of working time here before the end of the year, which is a shocking statement to make. But in that time, we are pretty ambitious about what we're trying to get done. So one of the things that we're focused on is kind of continuing down the vein of how we can continue to make it easier to build inside of Draftbit and to kind of unblock yourself when you may be confused or find things that you're not as familiar with. We're adding a lot more sort of contextual help content within the product. So we're actually the kind of the console log experience that Rahul shared is actually going to kind of be the foundation for us being able to like use that sort of drawer mechanism in the design to house some other content. We've actually created a ton of really useful video content and tutorials that are a little bit hard to discover today, unless you're super active in our community or pay close attention or a subscriber to our YouTube channel, which you should definitely be a subscriber to our YouTube channel, where all of our office hours recordings are posted and lots of other good content is in there. But trying to decouple the things that exist in those places and like put them inside of Draftbit in moments where you could really benefit from that content. So that's going to be something over the next week or so that you start to see added, and we're going to continue to build upon that over time. So the first version will certainly not be the most comprehensive, but will be a start of kind of a pattern that we'll establish to drop more and more of this contextual help in the product moving forward. Another thing that we're focused on is also like trying to streamline the process of getting your app published to the app stores. So right now, like you may be familiar that we've kind of the main kind of self-service way of publishing inside of Draftbit is to publish a PWA or progressive web app, and that the App Store publishing process has kind of been handled very very manual by us. Like you kind of make a request, through our intercom, chat function, and like we kind of then go back and forth on collecting certain information we need from you in terms of App Store credentials and like things that we need to be invited to in order to help publish your app. And so we know that for the most part, you all want to publish to app stores, and that like publishing to PWA may not be the preferred destination. And so we're building more things into the product here shortly to help capture the information that we need from you, to help clarify the information that we need from you in terms of your app. Like, do you need an App Store account? And the answer is yes. iOS or Google, like you need those accounts in order to publish. And so we try to help walk you through what you'll need, and then provide a place for you to input the specific credentials that we require to help you, produce a build and get that uploaded, into the app stores. And so more of that kind of data collection process will live inside of Draftbit, and I think that'll help us scale up quite a bit our ability to like take requests to publish and help run that process and do some light automation around it to make it something that you can get a published build in 24 or 48 hours making a request from us. So, and that again, that is something that is kind of like first, second inning kind of implementation, like where we're really trying to just streamline some more manual processes now, but like the long-term vision that we're going to keep investing here is to try to continue to automate that process as much as possible. And so for you to self-serve your way, into publishing regular builds, because I think that is how we see the ideal app building process, is to be able to iteratively be publishing your app into, if you're using iOS, into a test flight environment. And then if you're using Google Play, I think it's the Google Play console, is where you kind of can do the test deploys, for that. And like to continue to do that and to test it internally and test it with your users, in that sort of like real deployed app environment. Because I think sometimes we view the deployment to an app store as kind of like the last mile, sort of thing. Like, hey, I've done everything in my app and then I deploy it to the app store and then it's ready. But like you definitely, can benefit from doing that frequently and iteratively and uncovering things that you may not have realized or noticed, especially about the process itself and understanding that process, because ultimately that is part of building a mobile app. the kind of visual building experience in Draftbit is part of it. But the actual continued process of publishing and understanding the Apple ecosystem and the Google ecosystem, like these are things that we can help you with. But I think ultimately you also need to invest in trying to understand better as your app and your app business develops. And so the more that we can help you iterate towards that and learn quickly as part of your building process, I think you'll be better off. And there's a few other things that we're experimenting with. Some of this would benefit new users, particularly like trying to, I think, take some of the concepts I just mentioned and put them into our onboarding experience so that we're capturing more of the information we need from you, for your first app, right away, like capturing things like data services you want to use and some of the publishing credentials I mentioned, and trying to just make it easier to get started in Draftbit as a new user. I think those are some things that we're also investing some time in over the next week and a half or so before the end of the year. Hey, we have a question. Hold on. John Galt. Hello, John. Always good to hear from you. I'm just going to read your question. So John says, I've been recently trying to help other Draftbitters troubleshoot issues during one-on-one sessions, and the lack of ability to send full projects between us is a huge limitation that forces us to waste hours trying to duplicate apps and pages with screenshots and raw text code. We need the ability to download full projects and pass them to each other via email, etc. The recipient should also be able to upload the file to their dashboard. This will enable us to create local backups of our projects. I just want to say appreciate that you are spending time trying to help other Draftbit users and using your own time one-on-one to support them. Certainly appreciate it, and thank you for doing that. I definitely acknowledge that the Draftbit team has some unique abilities to be able to dive into other people's apps and be able to see what our users are experiencing with the kind of admin privileges that we have as a team. And so totally acknowledge that those privileges make it easier for us to do some things that would be harder for users to exchange with each other. One thought is, obviously, as pro users in Draftbit, you can export your code at any time. And so one possible solution here is to have people upgrade to pro plans in order to get that export function in order to be able to exchange in the way that you're describing. I think we're protective of that export function, for various reasons that you could probably understand why we would care about being protective of that as a business, in terms of, wanting that to be a feature that we provide 100%, but maybe wanting that to be a feature that, requires more commitment, from the user's part in order to get. But 100% acknowledge the request. I think if there are things, I would say, John, if there, in absence of us, building that entire feature set out, which, certainly would be non-trivial, for us to do, I would encourage you to, think about ways that us as a support team, can be of service to you in this effort, right? I know Rahul Rahul Shukla on this call, Rahul Agrawal, David Atanda, Dave Sebek, these are folks that, are on our team who are pretty active in all of our support channels, helping out users. And if any of those folks and also the core Draftbit, leadership team, myself, Peter, Brian, Donald, George, if we can be of service, just kind of one-off, in trying to support users in the way that you're describing, 100%, into making that happen. Your observation, is it a business decision? Is it a business decision to not support the feature set that you're asking for? No. I mean, well, yes, in the sense that it's a business decision anytime we have to make a prioritization call on our roadmap. I think we've had this conversation, in the past. We're a small team, and we have to be pretty ruthless about the things that we prioritize and work on. And so, yes, it's a business decision for us to decide to focus on one thing over another thing. For sure. If we had, our total team size is like 13 people. So one can imagine that, there's, only so much that a team of that size can accomplish. And, the requests that you bring up, John, and the requests that we hear from other users, it's a wide spectrum of things that we hear. And also, like, there are a lot of things that we believe as a company that we need to build in order to, to make building in Draftbit easier. So 100% yes, it's a business decision. All product decisions are a business decision. And my sense is what you're asking for, while I could see it be valuable in the use case that you're talking about, also wouldn't be easy to do. It sounds to me it's like a business decision to lock us down. I'm not really sure what you mean by lock us down. I don't really think that you're locked down. The ability to be able to share sensitive information about your app, about the actual content of your code, around the experience that a user has created in the builder, that has some security implications, for example. And so building an experience to make that exchange of the contents of your app easier, is something we'd have to really think through in order to get it right. There's no desire to lock you down. Look, John, I appreciate your perspective. I feel like, this conversation could easily just go off the rails, to be perfectly honest with you. I think your request is heard and weighed against other requests. I think you've suggested this before, and I understand. But I think the use case you're describing is relatively specific to you, and perhaps not something that we hear as common from other users. And so, as a result, we have to weigh it accordingly. Would be my response. Totally hear you on this, but feel like we could spend probably the next 10 minutes just continue to go down this conversation path, and I'm unclear that that's what the breadth of our users would get value from. So always appreciate the commentary. Keep helping users. I love the persistence personally. I think you probably understand that the squeaky wheel, thing can be of value. But seriously, I really do, John, I really do want you to, if you're supporting users and you're helping folks out and you're running into blockers like this is what our team is here for. We've invested very specifically in bringing on more team members to support users. And I think that's probably fairly obvious in the level of responsiveness that you've seen from us in the community. So always reach out, and try to leverage the team that we have, to support the things that you're also trying to do to help our users. Because you would never get pushback from us, in terms of reaching out and being like, hey, I need help. I think where it's harder is when it comes down to product level prioritization, that's where the constraints are much, much tighter, on our end. So, is that all fair, Peter? Did I?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. John, it's never a if, it's a when, really. We have 4 engineers on the team, and everyone has their own priorities and things that we want to build, and we do the best we can to balance those internally. But I do appreciate the push, because it always helps us prioritize and realign. So thanks, John.
Agreed. Well, I feel like we've done 30 minutes, but we've kind of exhausted what we came to discuss today. And I feel like Crowdcast is having some various technical issues that seem to keep popping up a little bit. So we might wrap up the stream early today. But thanks to John specifically for showing up and engaging and being consistent with that. It's always appreciated. Thanks to Rahul for preparing some great demos to showcase new features. Thanks to Peter for building those new features. Well, he didn't build all of them, but for building at least to navigate with the navigators. Donald will take the credit for the console log and the error wrapping of the custom components. And we will be back on Thursday. I think Rahul, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you are flying solo potentially for the Thursday office hours. George will not be available on Thursday. So unless you rope, someone else into, to your conversation, it'll be all you.
Yeah, I think that would be a good experience, and I'm sure I would have John's company there as well. So looking forward to see that, John. And again, as a success engineer, I also want to thank you because your contributions are not getting not being unnoticed. You're doing a great job in helping your users and coming up with different ideas of what Draftbit can do. So we really appreciate that, and I personally really appreciate that as well. So thank you for all your help, what you bring into the Draftbit community.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you on Thursday. And thanks again for everyone's attention. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Hey, everybody.